apparently when I do these reaction videos, people like them. So I'm actually looking at a video today with Lex Friedman and Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz, a famous private equity investor. And so they're talking about what makes great startup founders. And I think that's important for our audience. So bear with me. Here we go.
What advice could you give to a startup founder, someone who wants to build the next super successful startup in the tech space? The Googles, the Apples, the Twitters.
Yeah. So the great thing about the really great founders is they don't take any advice. So, so if you find yourself listening to advice, maybe you shouldn't do it.
But that's actually, just to elaborate on that, if you could also speak to great founders too.
Yeah.
Like what makes a great founder?
So what makes a great founder is super smart, coupled with super energetic, coupled with super courageous. I think it's some of those three. And
like most people who are really good at stuff, they're just not good at explaining that. I think most people would say they're courageous, energetic, smart. So I'm not sure if that's it, but let's hear this out.
Intelligence, passion, and courage.
The first two are traits, and the third one is a choice, I think. Courage is a choice. Well, because courage is a question of pain tolerance, right? So how many times are you willing to get punched in the face before you quit?
Yeah.
And here's maybe the biggest thing people don't understand about what it's like to be a startup founder is it gets very romanticized, right? And even when they fail, it still gets romanticized about like what a great adventure it was. But like the reality of it is most of what happens is people telling you no, and then they usually follow that with "you're stupid."
So I would say that what's probably a bigger tell for who's going to be a successful entrepreneur is they got to have a bit of an ego. They got to be willing to hear no thousands of times, or you're crazy, or that doesn't make any sense, and continue to forge on. They're very selective about who they're actually taking advice from, because they're very confident in their method and what they believe in, and more importantly, like why they believe that thing. I think where people get killed is when they go ask a bunch of advice to people. They're not even sure what they actually believe, and then they interpret all that data, and it throws them off their game. You see the same thing happen in sports, or like golf, for example. You know, there's a million ways to swing. Some people have different methods, and so somebody corrects your swing because they think you're doing it wrong, and you don't know why you actually swing the way you swing, then it might throw you off of your game.
No, I will not come to work for you. I will not leave my cushy job to come work for you. No, I'm not going to buy your product. No, I'm not going to run a story about your company. No, I'm not this, that, the other thing. And so a huge amount of what people have to do is just get used to just getting punched. And the reason people don't understand this is because when you're a founder, you cannot let on that this is happening, because it will cause people to think that you're weak and they'll lose faith in you.
Yeah.
So you have to pretend that you're having a great time when you're dying inside, right? You're just in misery.
That's a great point. I mean, you just literally have to be able to take it on the chin and not be fazed by it. Understand that for every person that says no, there's somebody that's going to say yes, and you got to have enough conversations to actually get to those. It's like how many licks to the center of the Tootsie Pop before you actually get to the sweet nectar. You find the right person who actually agrees with you or your thesis or believes in what you're doing. And I don't think most people are prepared for that. Now we're talking about startups, right? We're talking about like people who are pioneering or building technology or doing really hard things that require a lot of money. This might be a little bit different if you're going to go, buy an existing HVAC company or something that's less sexy. That makes a little bit more sense to people because I think everybody gets it. But this is more important when you're going out there and doing things that are maybe changing or revolutionizing the way that they're done in a market.
But why did they do it?
What do they do? Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it is a level. This is actually one of the conclusions. I think I think it's actually for most of these people on a risk-adjusted basis, it's probably an irrational act. Mm-hmm. They could probably be more financially successful on average if they just got like a real job at a big company. But there's, some people just have an irrational need to do something new and build something for themselves. And, some people just can't tolerate having bosses. Oh, here's a fun thing is how do you reference check founders? Mm-hmm. Right. So you call it, the normal way you reference check you're hiring somebody is you call the bosses and you find out if they were good employees. And now you're trying to reference check Steve Jobs. Right. And it's like, oh God, he was terrible. He was a terrible employee. He never did what we told him to do.
Yeah.
That's actually probably a sign that he's a good founder and a good creator. I mean, the term entrepreneur really just means creator. So I think for me personally as an entrepreneur, one of the things that draws me to it is this need to create. Because if I was sitting here talking about writing a song or making music, nobody would really think twice about it, right? It would just be, oh, you must be a musician, you must be an artist, you like to create. Business to me is the same way, but for whatever reason, when money gets involved, which makes most people feel uncomfortable, they don't apply the same context to it. But you're just a creator, that's why, and you don't like the idea of somebody else telling you what to do or how to create this vision or this song that's in your head.
So what's a good reference? Do you want the previous boss to actually say they never did what you told them to do? That might be a good thing.
Well, ideally, what you want is I would like to go to work for that person. He worked for me here, and now I'd like to work for him. Now, unfortunately, most people can't. Their egos can't handle that, so they won't say that. But that's the ideal.
What advice would you give to those folks in the space of intelligence, passion, and courage?
So I think the other big thing is you see people sometimes who say, I want to start a company, and then they kind of work through the process of coming up with an idea. And generally those don't work as well as the case where somebody has the idea first, and then they kind of realize that there's an opportunity to build a company, and then they just turn out to be the right kind of person to do that.
When you say idea, do you mean
what
long-term big vision, or do you mean specifics of like product?
Yeah. I would say specific, like specifically specifics, like what is because for the first 5 years, you don't get to have vision. You just got to build something people want, and you got to figure out a way to sell it to them. Right. It's very practical, or you never get to big vision. So
the first product, you have an idea of a set of products, or the first product that can actually make some money.
Yeah. Like it's got to work. The first product's got to work, by which I mean, like it has to technically work, but then it has to actually fit into the category.
I mean, I kind of believe with that to a certain extent, but you got to have some vision. I mean, like you saw some sort of opportunity, and that's what caused you to go build the product or put together the founding team in order to build that product. And then, yes, obviously product market fit. You got to go get it to actually work and make money before you can scale it. And as you scale and you grow and you get further down the road, then the vision changes and adjusts, and you can kind of see things from that new level that you're at that you didn't see before. So yeah, you got to have some vision. I don't agree with that. I think that's bullshit.
In the customer's mind of something that they want. And then by the way, the other part is they have to be willing to pay for it. Like somebody's got to pay the bills. And so you got to figure out how to price it and whether you can actually extract the money.
Yeah.
So usually.
So we say this all the time, but that's why marketers are rising to the top of organizations or going and becoming great entrepreneurs, is because they understand the concept of marketing and selling an idea in order to generate revenue. You can be really good at product design, but if you're terrible at sales and you're terrible at marketing, you're going to really struggle. So it's actually more important to be good at marketing, more important to go get skills in sales and marketing than it is to be like a really good product engineer, because you can actually hire those people or find those people as partners to go and grow the platform. I mean, that's what I've done in every one of my companies. Is I'm really good at the marketing and the sales and the strategy, and I just go find people who are better equipped at these other skills and either make them partners or I hire them and pay them to do it.
Success is never predictable, but it's more predictable if you start with a great idea and then back into starting the company. So this is what we did. We had Mosaic before we had Netscape. The Google guys had the Google search engine working at Stanford, right? Actually, there's tons of examples where they, Pierre Omidyar had eBay working before he left his previous job.
So I really love that idea of just having a prototype that actually works before you even begin to remotely scale.
Yeah. By the way, it's also far easier to raise money, right? Like the ideal pitch that we receive is, here's the thing that works. Would you like to invest in our company or not?
Yeah.
Like that's.
Agree with that 100%. I think go build the minimum viable product first, show that it works, show that you can make money, and then go raise money. You can leverage your skills, your talents, your resources, and put some of your own skin in the game. Too many people are out there raising or trying to raise money on zero revenue and an idea. And my promise to you is those are very, very rare, few far and in between. And if you're new to this is your first founding of a company, nobody's going to write you a check if you don't have any track record or resume. Maybe if you've done it a couple times, you'll get somebody to write you a check, but it's incredibly rare.
So much easier than here's 30 slides with a dream, right? And then we have this concept called the idea maze, which our biology Srinivasan came up with when he was with us. So then there's this thing. This goes to mythology, which is there's a mythology that kind of these ideas kind of arrive like magic, or people kind of stumble into them. It's like eBay with the pest dispensers or something. The reality usually with the big successes is that the founder has been chewing on the problem for 5 or 10 years before they start the company. And they often worked on it in school, or they even experimented on it when they were a kid. And they've been kind of training up over that period of time to be able to do the thing. So they're like a true domain expert. it sort of sounds like mom and apple pie, which is, yeah, you want to be a domain expert in what you're doing, but you would, the mythology is so strong of like, oh, I just like had this idea in the shower and now I'm doing it. Like, it's generally not that.
Yeah, 100%. I can talk for myself. What we're doing with the Pain to Profits platform, what we're doing with clearlyacquired.com. I mean, I've been working with small to medium-sized businesses for the last 15 years of my career. I poked my head inside of thousands of companies. I really understand the things that make them go wrong and why most entrepreneurs tend to fail. I also understand that, less than 4% of businesses ever make it to $1 million in gross revenue. And I can see how the market comes together because I come from this world of marketing and technology, and I come from this world of consulting and investing, that there's a market being formed and there's currently not a solution to solve that. And that wasn't an idea in a shower. That's something that came to me nearly a year ago, and something that I've been percolating on for 12 to 13 months before I actually moved forward, built the founding team, invested the money, started building the software, and here we are today.
No, because maybe in the shower you had the exact product implementation details, but yeah, usually you're going to be for like years, if not decades, thinking about like everything around that.
Well, we call it the idea maze because the idea maze basically is like there's all these permutations. Like for any idea, there's like all these different permutations. Who should the customer be? What shape, form should the product have? And how should we take it to market? And all these things. And so the really smart founders have thought through all these scenarios by the time they go out to raise money. And they have like detailed answers on every one of those fronts because they put so much thought into it. The sort of more haphazard founders haven't thought about any of that, and it's the detailed ones who tend to do much better.
So how do you know when to take a leap? If you have a cushy job or a happy life?
I mean, the best reason is just because you can't tolerate not doing it, right? Like this is the kind of thing where if you have to be advised into doing it, you probably shouldn't do it. And so it's probably the opposite, which is you just have such a burning sense of this has to be done. I have to do this. I have no choice.
What if it's going to lead to a lot of pain?
It's going to lead to a lot of pain. I think that's.
What if it means losing sort of social relationships and damaging your relationship with loved ones and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, look, so like it's going to put you in a social tunnel for sure, right? So you're going to there's this game you can play on Twitter, which is you can do any.
I mean, I think that if you are already thinking that it's going to cause damage to your family, then that's probably important to you, and you can work to mitigate that. You're going to have to give up some of your social life. You only have so much room for that. So, if you're focused on your business and your family, then everything should be relatively peachy in your life. If you don't have a family, then that's like a non-issue. So you can still maintain a social life and have your business. I think when you actually do it, you realize that most of the things you were working on didn't actually lead to results. There's only really like a handful of things. And so, my advice, I guess, for future founders and newer founders is to actually really distill down what's working and what's not, and not be so excited with doing new stuff all the time, but just focus on, more and better, as Alex Hormozy would say, the more and better framework. How can I do more of what's working, less of what's not? And how can I do it better than I'm currently doing it? And if you do that for long enough for a period of time, you will be successful, but don't feel like there's a destination or an endpoint that you have to meet. Those are the things that put an unrealistic amount of pressure on you to get it done. And it'll make you or force you into making some decisions like working 120 hours a week and neglecting your family when you don't necessarily have to do that.
Whiff of the idea that there's basically any such thing as work-life balance and that people should actually work hard and everybody gets mad. But like the truth is, like all the successful founders are working 80-hour weeks and they're working, they form very, very strong social bonds with the people they work with. They tend to lose a lot of friends on the outside or put those friendships on ice. Like that's just the nature of the thing.
That's true.
For most people, that's worth the trade-off. The advantage, maybe younger founders have is maybe they have less, maybe they're not, for example, if they're not married yet or don't have kids yet, that's an easier thing to bite off.
Can you be an older founder?
Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah. Many of the most successful founders are second, third, fourth time founders. They're in their 30s, 40s, 50s. The good news of being an older founder is you know more and you know a lot more about what to do, which is very helpful. The problem
more strategic. You have a way greater repository of experience. If it's your second or third iteration, you kind of know the blueprint and you can kind of get from point A to point B. And it's just that time is like the great equalizer in everything that you're doing. So patience. They definitely say patience becomes a virtue as you get older. And so that's definitely true as a founder. And the vast majority of companies that get started, in the United States, at least, are people between the ages of 30 and 40. Starting anything is hard. Anything that's worth it is hard. If you don't have a balance around the most important pillars in your life and what's important to you and what your lifestyle design is, then you're going to be in a rush to, push the business forward and get it over the line at the sake of your family or your social relationships or your faith or whatever that might be. So you can definitely have it balanced, but just remember it's a season. There's only a period of time that you can do that. And the more strategic you can be up front and more calculated you can be, the more success you'll have long-term as you go to grow your business. If you guys like that and you want to get more content, just go ahead and click that subscribe button and we'll keep it coming.